that this has become the biggest story in wrestling
Yeah.
during the same week that Stone Cold Steve Austin, that we found out that he's coming back to have a match.
Right.
But it's been overshadowed by Cody Rhodes, the executive vice president, who has now left AEW.
Mhm.
All signs are pointing towards him signing with WWE. That hasn't been official yet, but everybody, I've been all over this thing. Sean Ross Sapp, Dave Meltzer, Wade Keller, all of them are in agreement that he is more than likely going over to WWE. So what's your takeaway of this?
Man, this is the most topsy-turvy story. The first couple of days you're just trying to sort out, so at my workplace, people know that I watch wrestling. I've got a few friends that watch it with me, but mostly it's people who are just like mildly curious and think it's amusing that I'm into wrestling. And so every once in a while, they'll ask me questions about it. And the last time that people would just come up to me and ask me questions was when they heard that CM Punk was coming back. And more people stopped by my office to say, like, did you hear what happened? Than when CM Punk came back.
Oh my gosh.
Like
really?
within 2 hours of the news breaking, people were just coming to my office and saying, hey, I heard that like Dusty Rhodes' son is leaving the company, that company that you do that podcast for, like what's the story on that? So it's crazy. I mean, that's a big deal. And if you talk about, I think it was Paul Fontaine who was talking about, that this is actually the master plan, or, in terms of like Cody achieving his dream. His dream wasn't to build a new company. His dream was to prove WWE wrong.
Right.
And this is the culmination of that. If he gets the big contract and the creative input, and comes back as the star that he believes he is, then that to him is really the win, which I think surprises a lot of people if that's really the case. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, I try not to get into the gossip of things, but like I'm dying for the tea on all this. Like I want to know every detail. Like this is the most fascinating story. All the dynamics is how much is Brandi involved? Is it about money? Is it about control? Is it because it to me seems like such a bad decision?
Yeah.
For him.
It is and it isn't, because I don't. So here's the thing, and I too, like, I'm not typically like a gossip type of guy, but man,
right.
Wade Keller has been covering like the deep and down and dirty gossip of it, with basically like people kind of like either like Cody or they don't like Cody. But most of the people, like, they kind of respect him, but they just think that he's like, there's always something going on with him.
Right.
But universally, despite what people are saying in public, like, they did not feel the same way about Brandi. And that is like interesting to me, that how that could possibly be the reason, one of the reasons why he left. But here's my complete takeaway on it.
Okay.
So, and I think of it like this. So Cody, he's an EVP, right?
Right.
He, and he was losing his booking power there. So essentially, if he was staying with AEW, he was going to get a demotion. He was going to go from being a boss to kind of just being another talent, right? So he's going to be there and get demoted. And I think of it like a football team where you're the head coach or you're the offensive coordinator, and then all of a sudden you're getting demoted. Do you stay with that team, or you go find an opportunity elsewhere?
Right.
But with him, it's like, okay, if I'm going to be demoted and I'm not going to get creatively fulfilled, because he very much likes to book matches and book storylines, if I can't do that here anymore, I might as well go back over here to WWE, where at least I'm going to get paid a lot more money. If I can't chase my creative goals here, I'm going to go chase the bag in WWE. And I'm going to try to get some leverage doing it, because WWE wants to stick it to AEW.
Right.
And now he has a little bit of leverage there. And so, and it makes actually like a lot of sense to me. Everybody's like, well, if he can't have booking power here, why would he go over to WWE?
Right.
Well, it's because
he's changing his goals.
Right. He's changing his goals because he can't fulfill that goal over here anymore. And now he was in a, like, and I get it. It's like, if you're the boss at your work, and then all of a sudden you're no longer that, do you still want to be there anymore? It's awkward. Right.
Or if you think you're Aaron Rodgers and they're coming in saying, hey, we got this guy we just drafted and we want you to make him the starting quarterback as quickly as possible. You're going to be like, no, trade me.
Right.
Yeah. So I do get that part of it. It's so funny how like we can sit and psychoanalyze someone we've never met. I know some people like Garrett talked about how he's, how he has been able to talk to him a little bit and had a little bit of insight based on what he said and in Brandi, but just based on his interviews and how he carries himself and what he talks about that's important to him, how it's just fascinating. I mean, I get it that he doesn't want to just say, oh, I'm an EVP, so I get extra money, and he probably did, get satisfaction from doing all the community outreach stuff, but that's not why he's in the business. He's there to build, to make Cody Rhodes as big of a star as Cody Rhodes can be, no matter what that means. So if there's a dead end at AEW where his, I'm not going to have the influence, I'm not going to have, and I'm sure he doesn't look at it quite this way. So this is a cynical way to say it, but like, if I'm just doing charity events and busting my butt, lighting myself on fire to have great matches so that other stars can be put over, I'm going to go do something else. I'm going to, the thing that really surprised me about it was I thought that he had, like a really good relationship with Warner, and that like this Go Big show and the Rose to the Top thing, I was surprised he walked away from that opportunity, because it seemed like, unless like Nick Khan is in there saying, oh yeah, you'll get all that and more.
And I think that he would have those opportunities. Like, WWE loves that stuff.
Right.
Like that's their wheelhouse, is those stupid reality shows.
Yeah. I just can't think of it any other way than him just walking into a den of snakes though. Like, he's going to go in there and all the people who have been like plotting against Triple H and, trying to like consolidate power around making Vince happy are going to be scared to death if this guy who came in and, on a $1 bet sold out a 10,000 seat arena and started a promotion with Tony Khan. That guy's not coming in just to wrestle. No. And so there's going to be people who are like they're going to be people who are trying to undermine him on day one.
Yeah. But the thing about WWE is they are in desperate need of top stars that aren't part-time guys. Right. Because they have like, Goldberg and Lesnar, and, now they're bringing back Stone Cold. Well, they're not going to be there in, in Wichita Falls, Texas on, on a Saturday. They're not going to be there. Right. But, a guy like Cody Rhodes is, Seth Rollins is, like Roman Reigns, he'll be there. So, and he's going to immediately come in and it's going to be one of the most interesting stories. At the same time that Steve Austin's coming in, and I'm just completely like totally fascinated by this whole thing. Sports Illustrated also, Justin Barrasso, who's not very good. I don't like him, but I think Dave corroborated this, that Brandi Rhodes is not coming with him. And when the story initially came out, there people were like giving me crap because like, hey, Brandy's coming back to Impact. Watch. And I said that if Brandi came back to Impact, I would quit the podcast. Okay. That's not real. Like I'm not actually going to quit. I love the podcast. Yeah. But now that it's come out that she is not going with him to WWE, she is no longer in AEW, and that she still wants to continue to wrestle. Where the hell else is she going to go?
Right. I mean, nowhere.
No,
she's not going to like,
you almost
have to
go
one of the indie promotions or anything.
No,
she's not going to Japan to go to Stardom.
No, yeah.
And that's always been my thing with her. It's I kind of get, I don't want to speak ill of her because I don't know her, and it's, so when I speak of it, I speak of a public persona of this character on TV that you see and how she carries herself on TV in her reality show. But she's always struck me as someone who like wants to get equal credit as Cody, because of it's, and I hate to quote her reality show, but it's kind of like that's like his Cody's sister called it on the show, that she's like, you married into the Rhodes name. You're not a Rhodes. You don't carry yourself like you're one of the part of this wrestling dynasty. And that was kind of a subplot on the show. But it was like, I don't know if she realized that was like, she had a really good point, that like she hasn't paid her dues as a wrestler, and she's not that great. I mean, she's kind of competent at doing like what I remember someone calling fantasy camp wrestling, where it's like she can learn a move, she can kind of do celebrity wrestling.
Yeah.
But and but it's so she's fascinating. Like she's so likable and yet so unlikable at the same time. She's charismatic, but also you kind of turn off, but I totally get how, like, I can't imagine what the behind the scenes were like in that last segment she did with Dan Lambert and
Oh man.
Paige Van Zandt, where it was like, what is even happening? Like that was Vince Russo level of like cross purposes and who's trying to get hated the most. And
That, I mean, do you think that that had to be almost the last straw, right? Like
that's kind of what I'm
negotiations took a
wondering.
negotiation, like if the and of course we don't have any inside information about the
Sure. Yeah, this
negotiations
is
here, but
speculation.
I mean, but if it was like, okay, Brandi needs to not only stay, but she needs to be paid well for her contributions. And Tony was just like, she's producing some of the worst television that we have.
Right.
We can't go on. And if that was like a sticky point, I guess kudos to Tony, because
Yeah.
I think there might have been one Brandi segment on AEW that I ever liked. And so they're few and far between.
Yeah.
But I can honestly see her coming to Impact. I really could. And I am not happy about that. But I could see them wanting her.
Right.
The problem that I have with her, and it's not so much that maybe she feels that like talent is sexually transmitted or whatever. I don't know what she's thinking, but is that you could just tell that she's dying to be a celebrity so bad. Like her whole thing is like so like all of her persona is like, I just want to be a celebrity. I want to be a celebrity. But then at the same time, she's like, I also want to be treated as an EVP. And then here I want to be treated as a model, and I want to be treated like this. So she has like all these different like things to her, and none of them are very like, other than her personality of just kind of like being a nice person, none of these other things are very endearing to the audience. And then they turned on her rather quickly. I felt similar. I think where I started to lose some interest in Cody, and Cody was one of my favorites for a long time. Like the moment he left WWE, I started following him pretty hard. I started going to indie wrestling shows that he was on, and I had never even been to indie wrestling shows. So I was a big Cody fan, big fan of his dad too, and his brother. But where he started to lose me was he started to be like, he was dying to be a celebrity as well. And you could tell that with the Road to the Top show, that was just so awful. Like, of course, that TV is not for me, right? And then he had the game show, and then he had the feud with Anthony Ogogo that was just dreadful. And with the speeches that led into that, the stupid weigh-in that they had, it was just bad television. And then he loses to Malachi Black, he retires after a match where he lost to a good wrestler. And then he gives like the Gettysburg Address, right? Like every speech with Cody is like the speech from fucking Independence Day with Bill Pullman. Like he was trying to reenact that every time. And so I just felt like, he was getting creatively bankrupt. And I was honestly to the point where, other than his match with Sammy Guevara, I was like, I don't really care to see this guy on the TV anymore. Maybe he needs to go away for a while. And he is, I think he's, his style of matches, his style of character is, I think it's better suited for what WWE does anyway. So
it is, but I do think I do think it is a big loss to AEW to lose what he brought to it, which was that kind of old school NWA storytelling wrestling that has like emotion and meaning and stuff like that. I think it is the kind of deal where it's like there's like an actor who can cry on command, and everyone thinks they're really great, and then they just realize he's crying on command. Like that's, he would always try to make a promo the promo, and it's like, okay, well, this is just Anthony Ogogo. You don't need to like talk about racism and like and so he'll be missed. I hope that he does really well. I mean, hey, the best thing in the world was if WWE got really good. That'd be great.